Hey everybody, this is Allie with Cruise Blog. Today we're going to be talking about my recent cruise on board Royal Caribbean's Utopia of the Seas. After years of avoiding Royal Caribbean's biggest ships, I finally tried one again and I'm going to be sharing everything that I loved and hated about the experience. Let's get into it. Royal Caribbean is known for building some of the world's biggest cruise ships over the last 3 decades. I love cruising, but I prefer booking sailings with more unique and interesting itineraries. I also like to cruise on a budget normally, and I typically opt for the cheapest cabins on the smallest and oldest ships. Because Oasis Class ships are so massive, the vessels are port restricted and offer limited itineraries to choose from. Not to mention, these massive ships are typically more expensive than other options in the cruise line's fleet. Last month, my husband and I had the opportunity to cruise with my family and grandparents on board Utopia of the Seas. The 4-night cruise was modestly priced at $1,400 and included stops in Nassau, Bahamas, and Royal Caribbean's private island Perfect Day at Coco Cay. Any cruise is a great vacation for me, but not everything was perfect during our sailing. There were some aspects of Utopia of the Seas that I really loved, while other nuances were a little frustrating and disappointing. To start, the price was quite high for a 4-night cruise. I'm always looking for a good deal when I book my cruises. My husband and I decided only a few months prior, though, that we were going to join my parents and grandparents on this cruise. While they had booked balcony cabins for about $1,300 the year before, we ended up paying about $1,500 for an interior cabin. We don't mind booking a cheap interior stateroom, though, but it was disappointing to pay more than my parents and get less. Because Utopia of the Seas is Royal Caribbean's newest ship, demand drives up these prices. This means we spent $750 per person for a 4-night cruise, or $187 each night. However, this does include port fees and gratuities for both of us, and we opted to pay slightly more to select our stateroom location instead of reserving a guaranteed cabin. Our cabin, though, was thoughtfully designed, and we didn't mind saving money by booking the cheapest stateroom. Sailing on a brand new cruise ship means your cabin will be the latest and greatest with stateroom design. After sailing on older and smaller ships for quite some time, we really appreciated the modern amenities that were incorporated in this design. First, the stateroom was very spacious and it didn't feel too cramped. We loved having a couch for additional seating, which is something that other competitor cruise lines have slowly phased out on their new ships. The bathroom was also very thoughtfully designed. It was apparent that Royal Caribbean reduced the width of the sink and the vanity to expand the shower size. My husband and I are both tall, so this extra space made all the difference. We also noticed how many chargers and outlets were available. The vanity featured a row of outlets and USB ports, while the nightstand each had an outlet and a USB-C port for us to use. Our cabin, though, on Deck 9 was very quiet as well. Utopia of the Seas is so large that we were situated in a block of interior staterooms towards the back of the ship. The stateroom was surrounded by 5 other interior cabins, and I'm always worried about noisy neighbors, and having that many different neighbors made me nervous. Luckily, this wasn't the case, and our room was very quiet. However, embarkation day was quite hectic, and I hated having to make so many reservations. After boarding in Port Canaveral, the first task on our agenda was to make reservations for specialty dining and shows. We attempted to make reservations in the weeks leading up to our cruise, but we continued to get errors both online and in the app. The app would show availability, but then it would fail when we actually attempted to book anything. We had a group of 8 people traveling together, which made it more difficult for us to reserve the headliner shows. My mom beelined for the box office after we made it on board and was met with hundreds of other people doing the exact same thing. My husband and I were in charge of specialty dining reservations. With our Diamond Plus benefits on Royal Caribbean, we didn't want to pay beforehand for reservation and not receive our BOGO perk. There were only a few options available for the restaurants we wanted, but we were able to secure 2 reservations that fit our schedule. Unfortunately, my mom didn't have much luck with reserving the shows. She waited in a really long line without much success. Instead, I went on the app and I found seats available for all of the late night shows, including the ice show and the diving spectacle. This was one of my least favorite parts of sailing on an Oasis Class ship. With so many people on board trying to see the same shows, you either need a reservation or you'll wait in a long standby line. This made me appreciate the smaller vessels where you don't need to fret about making reservations. It's frustrating when you pay thousands of dollars to go on a cruise and you still have to worry that you might not be able to see the headliner shows that you're paying to see. We also hated dealing with crowds and long lines, especially on embarkation day. The first few hours of a cruise are usually more hectic than the rest of your vacation, as you need to complete your mandatory safety drill and find your stateroom. When your cabin isn't available until later in the afternoon, no one has a place to go and everyone instead just wanders around the ship, so it feels very crowded. I could not believe the sheer number of people crowding into the promenade and the Windjammer. Of course, going to the buffet on the first day of a cruise is probably one of the worst things you can do in terms of crowds. Everyone heads up to the Windjammer buffet for lunch on the first day of a Royal Caribbean cruise. Not to mention, Utopia of the Seas offers fresh lobster for lunch on embarkation day. This only entices people further to visit the buffet instead of utilizing the other venues on board. Next time, I would even consider booking a specialty dining option for lunch to avoid the crowds on an Oasis Class ship. Also, sailing on an Oasis Class ship means that you do have more options for dining, and that was a highlight for us. This cruise was a very special occasion for our family as we were celebrating my grandpa's 90th birthday. Because we were celebrating, we decided to splurge and book 2 evenings at specialty dining. These four-charge restaurants offer an elevated experience with more attentive service, higher quality food, and fewer crowds. We booked Giovanni's Italian Kitchen for the first night, and we received our own private table in the back of the restaurant. This was a really nice surprise, especially considering my grandpa is a little hard of hearing. It was nice to have a conversation with a quieter ambiance. The two-story venue overlooked the ship's aft, and it was one of the most beautiful specialty dining restaurants that I have ever seen. The following night, we dined at Chop's Grill in Central Park. We rarely book 2 specialty dining meals on a shorter cruise, but Utopia of the Seas just had too many enticing options that we couldn't resist. We greatly enjoyed this meal as well, especially when my grandpa gave a really touching toast to the table that brought tears to everybody's eyes. The service was also very attentive, and the ambiance was just very quiet and intimate. Finally, we also wanted to try Mason Jar, which is Royal Caribbean's first specialty dining option for brunch. My sister raved about her meal here over the summer, so we booked a brunch slot for the last day. But unfortunately, this was probably our least favorite of the specialty dining experiences. We enjoyed some of the entrees, such as the gooey cinnamon roll and the southern burger, while others fell flat, such as the chicken and waffles. The cocktails were a highlight, though, and I would return just to go to the bar for the craft drinks on this menu. Considering we paid about $50 per person after you include gratuities, I would probably skip this restaurant in the future. Along with specialty restaurants, Utopia of the Seas features a plethora of complimentary restaurants as well. This includes fresh Mexican cuisine at El Loco Fresh and breakfast at Johnny Rockets for breakfast. Also, during our cruise, the entertainment was so spectacular and probably some of the best that I've seen at sea. In the last few years, it's pretty evident that most cruise lines are deciding to cut back on entertainment to save costs. For instance, Norwegian Cruise Line has cut all of their Broadway shows, while Carnival Cruise Line is relying heavily on game shows for entertainment these days. I truly appreciate that Royal Caribbean is still pushing the boundaries and prioritizing entertainment on their newest ships. Two of the standout shows on Utopia of the Seas include the Aqua 82, which is a high diving show in the Aqua Theater, and Utopia, which is an ice skating spectacle with Olympic-style stunts. The Aqua 82 show was undoubtedly the highlight, featuring gravity-defying dives, synchronized swimming, and breathtaking performances. The music, production, and the overall execution was just truly spectacular. The main theater also features a well-done show called All In. The show incorporated incredible technological effects and lighting, which was mesmerizing. The music was also varied with some modern hits, and that was something I really enjoyed. My husband and I finished the cruise with a late night comedian, and that was a lighthearted way to end the night. Both comedians were very funny at this show, and we laughed so much that it actually brought tears to our eyes. In addition, we also loved all of the themed bars and lounges on Utopia of the Seas. Each evening of our cruise, our family gathered before dinner to enjoy a little happy hour. This is one of my grandpa's favorite activities of the day, and he claims a glass of bourbon each day is his secret to a long life. There is certainly no shortage of bars or lounges on the ship either. In fact, Utopia of the Seas has 23 bars across its various neighborhoods, serving up cocktails, wine, beer, and other spirits. Some of the bars are more exclusive to the brand new ships, such as the Pesky Parrot, while others are Royal Caribbean staples like the Schooner Bar. One of our favorite bars to visit was the Pesky Parrot, which is a new tiki bar specializing in tropical fruity cocktails with exotic decor. Another favorite spot on the pool deck was the Lime and Coconut Bar, where I could enjoy my favorite lime and coconut signature cocktail. Even with thousands of guests sailing, the bar service was surprisingly fast. We never waited too long for a drink, and the bartenders were very attentive. But in the end, I'm not rushing to book another Oasis Class ship, even though I would sail again. While we had a great time on our quick getaway cruise with my family, my husband and I aren't in a hurry to book another trip on an Oasis Class ship. We still prefer the smaller vessels, and we've actually recently been enjoying the Celebrity cruises, especially their Edge Class ships. These Edge Class vessels strike the perfect balance for us between innovation, modern amenities, luxury, and the ideal size, all while sailing to very exciting destinations. I'm happy to see that Royal Caribbean is sailing shorter itineraries aboard their new ships, as most cruise lines used to sail their older and smaller ships on these weekend sailings. Royal Caribbean recently announced that most Oasis Class ships will actually be sailing shorter itineraries in the near future. I would happily book Utopia of the Seas again for a quick getaway cruise, as the ship is more of a destination in itself. There was so much to do and see and eat that we nearly ran out of time to try it all. All right, everybody, that is all we have for today. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to like and subscribe to our channel so that you can be notified every time we have a new video. Until next time, happy cruising.